Welcome to this special edition of Inconvenient Questions, or IQ. I'm Viswa Sadasivan, your host for today's discussion. The topic is 377A, agree or disagree. The wording reflects our desire for conciliation. It is an important topic because it's about identity, it's about civil liberty, it's about belonging. For precisely this reason, the topic has been divisive, it has been polarizing. Now, IQ believes in promoting a robust, honest, and informed conversation across boundaries that are, at the same time, respectful. We are determined to demonstrate that we can achieve this in this discussion. So here is some context for this discussion. In essence, Section 377A is a Singapore law introduced under British colonial rule. It criminalizes sex between consenting male adults. It was added to the Penal Code in 1938. In 2004, Associate Professor Ho Peng Kee, then Senior Minister of State for Law and Home Affairs, announced that the Penal Code would be reviewed. Section 377 and 377A would be examined. In 2007, after a robust debate, Parliament repealed Section 377 and replaced it with the new Section 377, which prohibited sex with a corpse. Section 377A was retained. However, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong gave this assurance in Parliament, quote, "We don't harass gays, the government does not act as moral policemen, and we don't proactively enforce Section 377A on them," close. This, however, did not assuage the concerns of the gay community in Singapore, as well as others who felt it was discriminatory. Over the years, there was no less than 5 constitutional challenges. Former Chief Justice Chan Teck Keong also weighed in with a 72-page article in the Singapore Academy of Law Journal. He stated quite categorically that Section 377A would violate the principle of equality of all persons before the law and not permit them to enjoy equal protection of the law, which is provided for by Article 12(1) of the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the state, the Constitution. In 2014, responding to constitutional changes made in 2010 and 2012, the Court of Appeal issued a landmark ruling that Section 377A was constitutional. The court noted that the guarantee of equal protection under the law, as enshrined in Article 12 of the Constitution, touches only on issues relating to religion, race, place of birth, and descent, and not gender, sex, and sexual orientation. In 2018 and 2019, there were 3 additional constitutional challenges. Lawyers for the parties included Senior Counsel Harpreet Singh. They argued that the original purpose of 377A was to curb male prostitution and not to curb private sex acts. In addition, the team reiterated the argument that 377A was incompatible with Articles 12 and 14 of the Constitution, pertaining to equality before the law and freedom of expression, respectively. In response, earlier this year, that is in February 2022, the Court of Appeal upheld Section 377A, stating that it was constitutional. The court, however, ruled that it was not enforceable in its entirety. Chief Justice Sundaresh Menon also stressed that any judicial ruling on Section 377A ought to concern only its legality or constitutionality, and it cannot extend to the policy merits or socio-political desirability of retaining or repealing it. Now, fast forward to August of 2022. During the National Day rally, Prime Minister Lee announced that Section 377A would be repealed. He said, and I quote him, "While we remain a broadly conservative society, gay people are now better accepted in Singapore, especially among younger Singaporeans. It is timely to ask ourselves again the fundamental question, should sex between men in private be a criminal offense?" Unquote. Apart from shifting societal attitudes toward same-sex relationships, the Prime Minister noted the significant risk of 377A being struck down in future challenges that are legal. He quoted this, he said this, and let me quote him. "We have seen several court challenges to Section 377A, seeking to declare the law unconstitutional. None have succeeded so far. However, following the most recent judgment in the Court of Appeal, the Minister for Law and the Attorney General have advised that in a future court challenge, there is a significant risk of Section 377A being struck down on the grounds that it breaches the equal protection provision in the Constitution," close quotation. The following day, Minister for Law and Home Affairs, K. Shanmugam, in an interview to the Straits Times and Liana Chao-Pao, said this, and I quote him, "There is some confusion. The definition of marriage is not going to be in the Constitution. That is not the intention. The risk is that the current definition of marriage in the Women's Charter can be challenged on the basis that it is in breach of Article 12 of the Constitution." He emphasized that the definition of marriage would be an issue decided by Parliament. He said, and I quote him, "What we are planning to do is to put into the Constitution explicitly that Parliament can define the institution of marriage and in the way it is defined in the Women's Charter, and it can make other pro-family policies on the basis that definition, on the basis of that definition, that marriage is between a man and a woman, and that these laws and policies which rely on the definition of marriage cannot be challenged in court by reference to Article 12, by reference to the Constitution," close quotation. So this is where we are today. While the repeal of Section 377A is welcomed by many, it has also opened the proverbial floodgates. The questions being asked include, what next? Same-sex marriage? Adoption of children by gay couples? Clearly and understandably, this is a cause for concern for the more conservative sections of our society. The concerns are about going down the slippery slope where values, norms, and tradition are threatened. Highly inconvenient questions that nevertheless must be addressed and not kicked down the road. Now let's have a discussion in good faith. As fellow Singaporeans, we should be able to disagree without being disagreeable. And even if we end up agreeing to disagree, we should be able to do so in a manner that fosters understanding, empathy, and involvement.